Hey guys, so today I want to talk about bad Tai Chi posture. And this really drives me crazy because there are some things in Tai Chi that are tremendous for solving some of the big postural problems that so many of us have. But you completely blow it if you make these mistakes. So let me show you a couple, right? Think about typically what happens for a lot of us during the day. You're sitting there at the computer, you start to type, eye strain, head movement, you kind of slouch this way, slump that way, try to get comfortable. And the basic thing that's going on is that all your energy and all your focus is up in your eyes. You strain with your neck to accommodate poor vision. As you sit, the thorax collapses, pushes down on the diaphragm, and gives your lungs nowhere to go, so your breathing suffers. And there's a whole chain of events that happens from bad breathing. And for a lot of us sitting all the time, we kind of sit into the lower back in a way that jams the lower spine. If you get into Tai Chi and you start thinking about following the hands around and doing all these movements where you're not paying attention to your spine, everything's going to fall apart. Because Tai Chi posture, good Tai Chi posture, and Tai Chi spinal posture is a remedy for all that stuff. So instead of the head going forward, you let the head come back. The chin relaxes down. And in a lot of ways, what it's going to feel like when you get the head and neck position correct in Tai Chi, it's going to feel like the head's rotating forward. You do it with your eyes closed. You want to feel the space coming up through the neck. You're relieving the compression in the cervical vertebrae by slightly dropping the chin, tucking the chin. And even, just as a remedy to this, even if you feel like your head leans forward slightly when you're practicing, that's better because you're reestablishing the cervical length. Now, the other big one, or sort of generally, instead of thinking about flexion and extension in the spine, think about extending along the axis of the spine. So the crown of the head is eventually lifted up because all of the spine elongates, axial extension. Meanwhile, when you sit in the hips correctly, the pelvis acts like an anchor and it drops the weight, so you have traction through the weight of the pelvis opening up the lumbar spine. So you have length at the top and the bottom. You don't go collapse the spine this way. When you hear some people talk about sinking the chest, that's what they do. None of us need more of that. It's actually lengthening along the axis of the spine instead of extending back. This is not good because it doesn't unify the body in the way we're going for in Tai Chi. But neither is this. That's a collapse. So axial length. Now, slightly more subtle thing that can happen as you start to get better at Tai Chi is that the release and the slight rounding back of the lumbar spine, drawing the bow at Ming Men, will take the weight that's stuck in the torso and the hips and drop it to the legs. So think of your spinal posture as freeing up the neck and head, but also properly delegating the weight to the legs. So when you get it right, the pressure comes out of the back, out of the hips, and instead of being free of pressure, it all drops to the legs. So your legs, you go through this phase where your legs really have to work hard. It makes you incredibly stable, and it makes your legs really strong. But it's not tension, it's releasing all the weight of the body into the legs. It makes you more grounded and more stable. That's huge. And incidentally, what you start to work on is getting the energy of the spine to unify with the legs. So when you move around, you focus on moving the spine, moving the legs, the arms, the head, the upper body gets into position through the actions of the leg and spine. And that's exactly the opposite of the initial problem that we're trying to solve, of being too head, neck, eye, upper body oriented in the first place. So please, please, Adopt the right posture in Tai Chi to solve these postural problems and stay away from bad Tai Chi posture.